Bernie Sanders t-shirt, courtesy of my friend Megan. Just throwing it out there. Good evening, folks. So check this out. I was flipping around Instagram and I came across, I think it was Politics Now or Now This, one of those deals. And they were talking about a new problem that's arising within restaurants. I want to make sure I get this right. The nickname for it is masculine harassment. So what's happening is women who work in the food service industry are reporting things that male patrons are asking them to remove their masks so they can see how cute they are. Folks, if you're offended by bad language, now's a really good time to turn this off because I want to ask a simple question. The fuck is wrong with people? It's a goddamn pandemic. Wear freaking masks. 20 million, 25 million people sick. Over 400,000 dead. And people want to go out and be momos and be like, yo, girl, let me see your face before I order some chicken wings. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Now, we're going to do a little economics here. Because one of the things about the food service industry, now, if you know me, or hey, Chavo, if you don't know me, well, let's break it down. I've worked in restaurants for probably 10 years, give or take, a firing here and a firing there and a quitting there and a go fuck yourself there. And anybody who's worked in restaurants, you know it's a rotating door in some instances. I work for 4 major companies. When we talk about female servers, waiters, whatever the case may be, women make up 70% of tip earned wages. And tipping is some bullshit because if a woman's got to go to work or if a server's got to go to work and deal with ass goblins who are asking them to remove their masks or fighting, I don't have to wear a mask. God damn it. These people are paid $2.13 an hour. Let you in on a little industry secret here. $2.13 an hour is the minimum wage for a position where you receive tips. Because the argument is, well, you make it up in tips. Well, here's the thing. Let's go back in history. Tipping was it wasn't even a form of a payment. It was a gift from lords to serfs or vassals, people working on their land. It worked its way through Europe up into the coffee houses and all that stuff. When it takes root here in America, it actually starts to take root in the 1930s during the Great Depression when restaurant owners were looking for a way to keep costs low. And how they did that was they basically told waiters, servers, food handlers, this is the way we're doing it now. You need to rely on the customer taking care of you. And there's some racial elements to it as well because it was part of the New Deal. New Deal, 1938. It was part of the decisions that were made that purposely excluded food handlers from getting a fair hourly wage because it was a way of exploiting African Americans. This has stayed in effect. So regardless of your skin color, regardless of how you sexually identify, if you're a waiter, you're fucked because you're waiting. You are literally relying on the generosity of people coming in. And don't get me wrong, I made a lot of money doing it. But I was a waiter, I was a bartender, I was a trainer, I was a food expediter. I managed, I shift managed. I was, to quote Goodfellas, if I was in there any longer, I'd be a fucking bar stool. That's how long I did this. And when I watch shows like Bar Rescue, I like the show. John Taffert, I'd probably beat with an orange inside of a sock given the opportunity because his whole thing is from a management perspective, from a employee perspective. Let me break down some math for you folks, okay? So what happens is at the end of the night, so if you work for, I'll name the restaurants I worked for. I worked for Chevy's, Chili's, Bahama Breeze. I was there for a sabbatical. And what was the other one? Red Robin. At the end of the night, you get a server report. And in that server report, it breaks down for you what you sold, how much liquor, how much food, how much this, how much that. It breaks everything down for you. Your comps, everything. So then you have your total sales. Now, if you're somebody like me, I closed a lot. My shift started at 4, worked at 2 in the morning. We're going to come back to that. So my sales, because I was pretty good at what I did, I made a lot of money for the restaurant. So my sales would usually be about $1,500 to $2,000 on a Friday, Saturday, even a Sunday night if it was a good Sunday. Now, here's how the tipping thing becomes bullshit. Because at the top of the mountain, the owners of the restaurants, they get paid regardless. One of the guys I work for, the guy that owned the Chevys over in Clifton, owns, at the time I worked for him, he owned two other Chevys. The one in Clifton was the second busiest in the country, next to the one in Times Square. He also happened to own all the Applebee's in northern New Jersey. Basically, he's got a thing with the Applebee's Corporation. You want to open an Applebee's in New Jersey, you got to come and talk to me first. That's how connected this guy is as far as productivity in his restaurants. So $2,000 a night would be my sales. Where the tipping thing becomes bullshit is staff is relying on staff to make up part of their salary. Keep costs low, keep the income high. So let's say $1,500 was my sales for the night. So I get my little server thing, and before I even count the money, because then what we got to realize is the waiters carry the money on them. If you have a lot of credit cards, whatever the case might be, it tells you how much money you got to turn into the house at the end of the night. So before I even get into the end of the night, 4:00 walking in the door, I have to have $20 cash on me as change. And God forbid you didn't have that $20 in change, the manager would lose their shit. By the way, your shift starts at 4. What time do you got to be there? 4? No, 3:45. Why? So you could start working off the clock doing side work, whether it's portioning cheese, salad, whatever the bullshit may be. All right, so 4 p.m. shift rolls around, clock in, do all my sales, bing, bang, boom, we're partying, we're rock and roll, end of the night, $1,500 in sales. So before I start counting that cash, from that $1,500, do a little math here. So we're going to deduct 20 from that as it is. Now, I got a tip. Now, this is kind of universal. It might vary a little bit depending on the restaurant you work for. Things may have changed. I've been out of the business a little bit, but when back in the day, Chevy's, Chili's, Bahama Breeze, this is what the breakdown was. So $20 change, we'll get back to that later. I got to tip the host/hostesses, right? So now how I tip them out, $1,500, I got to do 10%, was it 10%? It's $15. So $1,500, if it's $2,000 in sales, $20. $1,500, $15. So $15 to the hostesses, and then they break that down into an hourly amount. $15 to the busboys, $15 to the bartenders, $15 if it's a Friday, Saturday night. I know they're going to put a food runner on. Usually a food runner was a weak server, but they could run food. Kind of a lucrative deal too. So 15, 15, 15, and 15. And now I didn't do it at Chevy's, I did it at Chili's, and there was a lawsuit over it. I had to tip out 50 cents on the check, on every check I had. So if I had 20 checks, I had to tip out $10 to the food expediter. So let's just skip that. So host, busboy, bus person, excuse me. It is 2021. Bartender, food runner, 15, 15, 15, 15, 30, 30. That's $60 that I have to take out of my pocket and pay them. Then with the take another 20 off because I had the $20 from the change. Whatever was left over, that's what I would make. Now, let's say I do all that stuff. And let's say in my pocket I got, we'll just stick with round numbers here. I have 140 in my pocket. But now, when I go to cash out at the end of the night, when I go to clock out, by the way, 2 o'clock, you're still closing up, lifting tables, wiping down booths, doing whatever you got to do. The manager might freaking clock you out. Yeah, to save on labor cost. I've seen it do it to waiters. I've seen them do it to dishwashers and cooks. If it comes down to saving a couple pennies on labor, they're going to clock you out even before the work's done. So you're working off the clock, which is technically illegal. Oh, speaking of illegal, I also had a raise taken away from me at one of the restaurants I worked for, but because I was a kid and I didn't know any better. So let's say I got $140 in my pocket. When I go to clock out at the end of the night, you got to claim your tips, and you got to claim all your tips because God forbid the government doesn't know how much you're making. Do I claim the $140? No. I got to go back and claim $200 because I gave 60 out to the other staff. At least that's the way it was explained to me. $213 an hour is bullshit in the states where they have at least paid people minimum wage. Things work out a little bit better. By the way, as a server, waiter, bartender, expediter, whatever the hell it may be, folks, no sick time. I can't tell you. Well, you can't see my fingertips, but I can't tell you how many times I've had cut my fingers to the point where I needed stitches, and it was cheaper and easier to go run over to the Stop and Shop, get some finger cots. If you don't know what they are, they look like mini condoms. I call them Irish condoms, and crazy glue. And you crazy glue your finger, put the finger cot, you wrap it, put another finger cot, and hopefully, it holds. My fingers are jacked up. I worked for one particular place for 3.5 years. They had gotten a new GM, and I was taking time off. The GM said, "Hey, you qualify for paid time off, right?" Excuse me? "Oh, yeah. You qualify because you work X amount of hours." And I said to one of the managers who's been there since day one, I said, "Bro, how come you guys never told us about this?" They're like, "Oh, fuck. We're not paying for you to take time off. Fuck that. You want to take time off, that's on you." I worked for a manager, and look, it was a long time ago. I got no ill will towards anybody. It is what it is. But their slogan, their motto was, if you break down, call a tow truck, call a friend, don't call me. There's never, ever a reason to miss a shift. Dude, sometimes in life, shit happens. And as my wife affectionately called me, the taco doctor isn't on call. Sometimes there's things that happen. These people, there's no job security. There's no union. There's healthcare was a friggin' joke. The one restaurant I worked for in Bahama Breeze, there was somewhat of a health insurance package. I only worked there for about a month and a half. I wound up taking a night job, and I just never went back. A night school job, actually. So for what's going on right now with COVID, I understand restaurants are hurting. I get all that, but there's way too much bullshit behind the scenes to be breaking some lady's chops to take off her mask so you can see how cute she is. That is some bullshit. The money's not $213 an hour, ain't worth it. As a matter of fact, there's no amount of money worth being sexually harassed at your workplace. And folks, the restaurant business, it's a tough business. I've seen a lot of harassment, but when it comes down to somebody having to wear a mask, take off their mask during a pandemic, that's bullshit. These are unstable jobs. Like I said, 70% of women make up these jobs. They're the most easily, I don't want to say exploited, but you have a bad night. Somebody doesn't tip you. Somebody walks out on the check, whatever the case may be. Dude, your money's not stable. There's a disproportionate amount of people compared to other jobs where these folks are working and they qualify for food stamps, or they're using food stamps, or they're on some kind of other assistance. It's not bad mouthing them. It's just that financially, in some areas, these are the only jobs available. And to deal with people's pig-headed bullshit is not part of the job description. And if that offends you, don't go out. If I've offended you, it is what it is. I'm letting you know this is what it, when you go out. So when you go out to an Applebee's, a Chili's, or whatever, and woo, we're having fun, there's a lot of stuff going on back behind the scenes. So the next time you go to shit on an employee, you want to give somebody an attitude, dude, the waiter, low man on the totem pole. They got nothing to do with it. Be nice. If you don't tip, in my book, if you don't tip, you're a piece of shit. And I want you to know that. These people need that money. Now, the other argument, or one of the arguments about raising minimum wage, some dumb bunny that just made it into Congress, she was like, well, when I worked at McDonald's, dude, these companies are multi-million, if not billion-dollar companies, depending on the place you're talking about. If you're saying the only way those companies, a Chili's, an Applebee's, a McDonald's, the only way those companies can survive is by exploiting its workers, then we got a bigger problem. And by the way, minimum wage, certain countries in Europe, $15 an hour, or euros, or whatever they use in Europe. The food, maybe 10 cents more, 15 cents more. If a system needs to survive by exploitation, then it's a system that shouldn't exist. See you guys down the road.